Book your driving lesson now at dla-driving.co.uk. Sponsored by DLA Driving School.
Hello and welcome to Oh in the Town. I'm Lou Gregory and here's what's coming up today. Luton head to South Wales to play Swansea and lead with all 3 points, giving us our first win of the season and also our first goal in a couple of games. How exciting is that? Finally off the mark. Today we'll look back at that Swansea game and just discuss how we managed to finally get our first 3 points of the season and how long overdue it's been. Also looking at our strikers today, a bit of an attacker focus. Which two strikers would you say are currently our strongest, and what have you made of their start to the season so far? We're also going to be looking ahead to Sheffield United and talking about the one Luton player that you've always felt was underappreciated at the club. There's some crackers in here today, so sit back, relax, enjoy the voice of only Dave and me today, because Gataro working late today, so couldn't unfortunately get to us, but how are you?
Enjoy the voice of only Dave. I thought you were going to say
Dave and me. Dave and
only
me.
Dave.
Yeah, not only Dave.
Good evening.
How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm very good, very happy. Had a great weekend. Good trip.
It was a very long trip, wasn't it? I kind of forget how far away Swansea is, because you think, it's just over the bridge. You go over the bridge, it's like another hour and a half.
I know, but I wasn't driving, so it
long.
makes so much difference to me.
True.
Thanks for Dwayne for driving.
It was great to get that win, though. I'm not going to lie. I went into the game, and I'll hold my hands up. I've never felt more negative going into a game before. I thought we had no chance of getting a result on Saturday. I don't know why. I just honestly I writ us off, and
You wrote us off from leaving the house and getting in the car all the way up there. You were saying, "Why have I come? Why have I come?"
Do you know why though? Because I was so disappointed by the Bristol City result, and I just thought Swansea had a couple of okay. I know they bottled a 2-goal lead against Millwall, but I just felt they were going to bounce back, and I just couldn't see a win for us.
Listen, we can't ignore the Bristol City game. The Bristol City game was horrendous.
Yeah.
We weren't in it at all. We didn't create anything. And it was a real substandard, not a proper Luton Town performance. It was so poor. So I can understand your negativity coming out of that. But it's a different game then, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you'd hope that the manager stuck a rocket up their backside and said, right, come on, this is what we've got to do. We've got to prove ourselves. And aren't you glad you went now?
Yeah, no, looking back, I know it was a very long day, but I got back and went straight to the pub at 10 o'clock, and I was just sat there like, you know what, it's been a good day. Got a win, managed to watch the EFL highlight show for the first time properly this season, which was nice. We recorded it because I was like, got a little win, we'll put it on.
Yeah.
So, no, happy days, really.
Didn't get much on there, though, did we? Let's be fair.
No.
No.
But some beautiful goals to talk about, which we'll do in a bit. Some 3-word reviews then of Swansea 0, Luton Town 2. Barney says, much needed win. Larrick says, big confidence booster. JP says, back on track. George, basics done better. Sol says, NJ tactical masterclass. Matt, press, steal, shoot. Gary says, Potts was magnificent. Dad says, trust the process. And Kilty says, season started today. And that's the way I'm kind of looking at it is, I just feel like now our season's really kick-started. Let's kind of forget them first, 3 or 4 games, maybe not so much the Burnley game, but just kind of put them to one side and go, all right, it starts now. Now we put together a little run.
Well, I'd like to think that we are going to sort of maintain momentum. It was a much-needed win. Barney's totally right. We, a defeat there put so much more pressure on Friday's game.
Yep.
Confidence booster, absolutely back on track. They're all things. Tactically, we got it really sound, didn't we?
George says basics done better. Do you feel we did do the basics a little bit better?
Well, I think we did the basics as well as we could. Any better than the other days? Well, we've managed to score 2 goals, so yes. But there is nothing about Saturday's performance by the team that you could sit back and criticise at all. Thought we were strong all game. Nathan got it right. He totally got it right. He's got his selection right as well.
Yeah.
And I think, the changes that he made were an influence on our performance, and then to make those late substitutions as well, or those substitutions later on in the game and change the front line, well, that worked out a treat, didn't it?
Looking at the changes from Bristol City midweek then, Lockyer, Musquay, Clark and Freeman came in for Osho, Morris, Bradley and Woodrow. Lockyer with his first league start of the season, I believe. And to be fair, it was his 400th career appearance. He played very well, didn't he, Tom Lockyer?
Well, I think I would have sort of put him up there as one of the man matches or player of the matches. And to be fair, I was surprised that Musgrave started.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you make of that? Because, some fans on social media maybe not... We're kind of a bit like me, writing us off a bit when Musgrave was announced in the starting 11. But fair play to him.
Do you know what? He did a good job, didn't he? But, the rest of those changes as well, Clark and Freeman, for me, they're almost must starters now.
You know what you're getting with Clark and Freeman kind of at the moment, don't you?
But the Musgrave one was I don't know, challenging for me because I didn't actually think he's performed well enough this season to get that position. However, he did a good job. He did what he had to do.
What I would say about Musgrave, the way he carries the ball and runs with the ball, I can find it offers us something a little bit different, and I don't mind it. It changes it up from just being, Morris and Adebayo, and it's long balls to them both. Whereas if you get the ball to Musgrave's feet, he can make something happen. He can dribble with it.
Well, as he proved at the weekend, and I think that, it's just not as consistent as we want him to be, and I think that's the issue. That when you see him in the starting lineup, you think, oh, why isn't it somebody else? I know if Cornet was fit, you'd like him to start, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So it's a difficult, but you know what? Again, with hindsight, we cannot criticise that team selection.
And you know what you're going to get when you go to Swansea, don't you? They're a team that love to keep possession, and I think we were speaking about this in the car on the way up, and we're going, you know what? It's going to be a tough game. You know what you're going to get. They love to keep the ball. They love to try and pass it around you, but they had a lot of possession without really doing much with it, didn't they?
Do you know, it's unbelievable the amount of times that they passed it sideways and nowhere, and every goal kick was short. They had by the end of the match, they had a lot of possession, 75% or somewhere around there. But when you look back, you have to say, realistically, how many times did we stand there at the game and go, wow, we should be one down now? Because it didn't happen. Our defence was very, very strong. And for all their sideways and passing movements, we were so high on our press. We were so quick at them that they didn't get time to, they couldn't create the spaces. And when they did, the defence was solid. The goalkeeper was brilliant. At the end of the day, how many big saves did he have to make?
Yeah, not
many. Not many at all. Maybe one or two.
It's like you said when they're keeping possession, and more so after we scored, the crowd were getting a little bit restless, and it was kind of what we said last week on the preview podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. What would it take for us to get the crowd to get on their back? Well, exactly what we did. We scored reasonably early, and then they didn't create anything. They didn't go for it after that. It just felt that they lacked that final third. They lacked that punch at the end where you thought, oh God, here it comes. They're going to equalise now, and it didn't happen. And it just literally felt quite comfortable.
But also we could see it whenever they were on the ball and in defence, and sometimes their defenders are just standing there, their hands are out, and they're going, I don't know who to pass this to. I've got no one to pass this to. And I think then that's when the fans again like, come on, like what are we doing? Why are we just?
How many times would you like to go and watch your team pass the ball out from the goal kick into the area, across the side of the area, back across the area, then to the other side, and then back again, and then back to the keeper, and then back to the side, because that's what they were doing. They'd hit the midfield, it would come back again. There was just no... maybe
it's almost like wanting to play like Man City, but without the finishing touches that Man City do.
They're not as good as Manchester City, unfortunately. But the thing is, there was no... Maybe we have to credit our team here. There wasn't many opportunities for them to split the defence in half or play that killer ball through, because our defence were really tight. But they didn't even take a punt towards the end. When they were had to chase the game, they didn't even take the punt. Then they were still playing it out like that. I don't want to discredit Swansea City's fans, but my God, something has to change for that, surely.
And it's like, we said on the preview podcast last week about getting the crowd restless, and after we went 1-0 up, that's exactly what happened. Let's talk about the goal. It was a corner in from the right-hand side. Freeman in outswinging. It goes headed clear ball, punch clear by the keeper. Sorry, it's a terrible description of the goal.
Headed clear. It was punch clear by the goal.
Shall I just, let's just start the ball again.
Okay.
Lovely corner in for Freeman. Keeper comes out. He punches it away. It falls to Alan Campbell. Very good technique. Left foot. keeper maybe could have done better, but it was a great goal. And to be fair, we did deserve it at the time, didn't we?
I think we totally deserved it. I think we was totally on top, even though we didn't have that much performance. We created the most chances at that point. The strike was brilliant. To hit the back of the net as it did was brilliant. When you see the goal from different angles, you've got to ask what their goalkeeper could have saved it. He should have saved it. You'd have been disappointed if that was against us. However, don't take it away from Campbell. He struck it real well. It was
a
in the
tough
right
finish,
place.
wasn't it?
In the right place. Took it really, really well. And the stands were amazing. It was amazing.
I couldn't quite believe we'd actually scored. I'm not going to lie, I was a bit shocked.
Quite noisy as well for the amount of fans that we took.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And do you know what the other good thing about that goal was? Shut that bloody drum up, because that was doing my head in. But brilliant goal. And again, it was for me, it was almost similar to the one we scored the other week when, was it Potts who scored?
Yes, Burnley.
Yeah, similar to that one. And, we just took the opportunity. And if he hadn't taken it, I think there'd be somebody else queuing up to get it,
Just on them second balls, didn't we? We're always on them.
Well, it's brilliant. It just is exactly what we needed, because was it 14 minutes in? You create those chances and you think, if we don't take one of these, maybe we won't get any more. But on the front foot, we look really good.
Potts had a chance to make it 2-0, a brilliant cross in from Freeman, I believe it was, and his powerful header was beaten away by the goalkeeper.
Good save, that.
I was going to say it was a really good save, weren't it? And it was at that time you're thinking, God, we're really on top here, and we wouldn't look out of place if we scored a second.
Well, absolutely that. But he was hoping we can maintain that for the whole of the game.
Yeah.
But, I think, I don't want to be disrespectful to Swansea, but you just thought, when are you going to get started? We went through that whole of that first half, and I don't feel that we felt threatened at all. And I think the back two were brilliant, and we controlled it a little bit there.
Maybe we do have to give the team Luton a bit more credit and say, we know off the ball we're one of the best in the league, that we really did a good job off the ball.
And that has to be that's part of the game these days, isn't it? It doesn't matter how much possession you have, but when you have possession, make it count.
Yeah.
And we certainly were doing that, weren't we? Again, our distribution was good when we got the ball, but the closing down of the players and the tackling back, and you can't fault anyone. Some of those tackles that were going in, brilliant.
And it went into half time, 1-0 lead. Swansea, like we said, didn't really threaten much, and even producer Jacobs put here on a running order. So for all of Swansea's possession, they never really looked like they had a threat on Horvath's goal.
No.
Luton deserving their lead at the break.
Yeah, and what isn't it like to go all that way at half time and go, do you know what? We've done this. We've done really well here. Let's hope we can keep it up. When we played at Burnley and we were 1-0 up, we were firing on all cylinders, and we thought, well, there's no way that Burnley are going to come out again and be that bad, so let's not take our foot off it here at Swansea either, because surely they're going to step up. But they didn't change their game plan, did they? They didn't change the way they were playing. They were still trying to pass it around, like you say, like they were a Premier League club, and it wasn't working for them.
What I like about this win at Swansea was, I know we've had good results at Swansea in the last 4 seasons now. I think we've won 3 out of 4 visits.
3 out of 4, yeah.
But I always look back at Swansea, maybe growing up as a kid, and obviously their time in the Premier League, and you think Swansea away is a tough place to go and get a win, but we have made it kind of nice to go there and get wins recently. And it's, like I said, it's just enjoyable to go to these places, perform really well, get a very well-deserved win.
Do you know what? If we'd have come away from Swansea with a point, I'd have been happy. To get all 3 in the manner that we got the 3 points, even better. You're right. Swansea used to be the Premier League club. They've been a First Division club in my lifetime too. They have a bit of history, but at the moment they're not firing, and we took advantage of that Saturday.
Nathan Jones made a triple substitution on 60 minutes. Adebayo, Musquet and Freeman going off for Morris, Jerome and Osho, and then it was 2-0 Morris getting his first for the club. And this goal I love so much. And I said on the podcast last week, don't really know what our style of play is, and I feel like the goals we've scored this season haven't really been to a style of play, but I feel like this was all what we're about. It was a quick counter-attack. It was brilliant from Campbell to work down the right-hand side to even win the ball back in the first place. He chips it into Jerome, and
Jerome has to do well there for that.
Jerome's done so much
to win the ball there and keep it away from that person that...
Darling, yeah.
Was it Darling?
Yeah.
Well, even better. And the little turn, the little run, But that
And the burst of pace from Jerome as well.
was brilliant. Yeah, don't underestimate Jerome. Like I say, he's a good player. And his pass with the outside of his boot was
brilliant, wasn't it?
sublime. And at that time, Morris still had a little bit of work to do. But God, didn't he do it well.
This is what maybe I've mentioned a few times on the podcast last season is sometimes when we're in that position, like back in the past where you'd have the likes of, this is no disrespect to anyone we've had in the past, but like Danny Hilton or someone like James Collins, where you get a player in that position and it's a little bit predictable of what's going to happen. But it seemed there with Carlton Morris, he gets in that position, there's only one, he knows exactly in the head what he's going to do. And it's that little bit of trickery, it's that little bit of, speed, that pace, that power, just to get it onto his left foot and put it, then the composure to put it in the corner. It was
centre forward.
Proper centre forward.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like this is what we paid money for, this guy, because that was class, and that's a proper goal.
If he can do that every week, then he'll be great for us. It was a brilliant goal, good strike, and it came at a good time as well. And it basically sealed the game for us. Absolutely sealed the game. And it's no more than we deserved. But every time you look at it, and if you look at it on that the official reverse angle video, it looks even better there.
100%.
That little that turn from Jerome, the outside of his boot, it's sublime. It's sublime. Well done, Jerome.
And it shows with Jerome as well. And this is why we decided to look at attackers today. Is he's not just because he's at an age where maybe some people think he's getting towards the end of his career. He's just here to be a sub and all this, but he'll be.
Oh, he's definitely not here to be a sub.
Chomping at the bit to get in that starting 11, won't he?
He wants to start. He wants to play as much as he can. If he didn't want to be a sub, he'd go down a couple of divisions. He wants to play at the highest level he can. And long may that continue this season for him, because, when he comes on, he makes a difference. And you know what? That's what you have substitutions for, isn't it? Impact. And he certainly did that. But you can't take it away from Morris. The finish for Morris for his first goal for the club was brilliant.
Some stats and facts from FOTMob. Producer Jacob's put on the podcast running order today. Swansea finished with 75% possession, 14 shots, 2 on target with an XG of 1.45. And Luton doesn't quite add up here, producer Jacob, just calling out on this, 29% possession, which just doesn't work.
No, it's 25, isn't it?
29.75, mate. You have to...
Yeah, good on you, Jacob. Well done.
First mistake of the season. Writing that down. Noted, mate. 13 shots, 5 on target with an XG of 0.52.
Yeah, can we just talk about the XG again?
No, because I spoke to Brentford's analyst team today about XG, because I wanted to have it backed up, because they were saying how much they use it all the time, and it doesn't matter if we had a 0.52 XG. We scored some hard chances. I'll take that.
Well, then what's the point of the stat?
We're not getting into this again.
But it's true.
It's a good indicator, though.
Well, clearly not. We scored twice.
Yeah, but you kind of take it from a whole range of data, not just one game. But anyway.
I get that. Do you know what, though? That just shows that they had 14 shots. I don't remember any of those, or maybe 2 of them. They might have had 14 shots.
A couple straight at the keeper, weren't there?
And a couple charged down by Lockyer and loads of other stuff.
Moving on then to today, instead of doing a player focus, we thought we'd focus purely on the attackers. What have you made of our attackers start to the season, and which front two do you reckon is our current strongest? Who would you start against Sheffield United?
Okay, that's a tough one. If we were managers, it would be easier if you're on the training ground. I think.
But we have the talent.
I think on Saturday.
Front, I
think on Saturday Morris starts. On Friday, sorry, Morris starts. Who plays alongside him? I don't think that Nathan would look any further than, at the moment, Adebayo to start alongside him. Whether that's the right decision, I don't know.
Would you say Elijah Adebayo's maybe not been up to the standard we know he can be at the start of the season?
He's definitely not been up to that standard. I mean, he worked hard, but he hasn't been anywhere near as close to he was the end of last season and the true last season. He was on fire last year.
Do you reckon he's carrying a little bit of a knock or something?
No idea.
What's the is it just a confidence thing? Is it, look, he'll get a goal and his confidence will skyrocket and we'll see the old Elijah back? But
well, listen, to get a goal and to get a chance, you have to create them. You have to feed the chances to him, and maybe he hasn't had as much service as he liked. I mean, if we look at his performance against Swansea, he was holding the ball up well, but he wasn't in the right positions a lot of the time for chances on goal, because he was trying to keep the ball to keep us moving forward. So, his form will come back. For definite, he's form.
And we know
you don't become a bad player overnight.
And we know what we're getting with Elijah, don't we? You know, a world-class striker that I think will go on to be a Premier League striker.
Well, good. I mean, if he's still crap until the window closes, that's great because no one will come for him. But, you know, I don't think that he's not going to be first choice for Nathan at the moment. I think when he scores, he'll get a couple.
Carlton Morris, what have you made of him? Obviously, brilliant goal to start.
I think he's a very strong player. I mean, it's what we need, isn't it? We need someone who's going to take the opportunities when they arise. So I was impressed when I first saw him play, and then then I've seen him not so good, and on Saturday he was great. So Carlton Morris, I think, is a good. We've got a nice, strong front line now.
I saw a really nice comment the other day, and it, made me think how we haven't had it in a while, but they basically said how Morris looked so much better facing the goal, running towards a defender than he does with his back to goal, holding up the play. And you just kind of think if we can get him in that position a bit more often where he's a bit more central, he is sprinting at defenders, we now know he's got a little bit of a trick in him to get it onto either foot.
Isn't that exactly what you want? And when he was playing up front there with Jerome, again at the end of the game Saturday, Jerome was the one holding the ball up. Jerome was one making the plays. And he just go back to the goal. It was right. He put him in the right position. So you always want your strikers not to be, facing your own goal. You want them to face the opposition's goal, surely. Yeah. And then when you're running at the defence, they know what they're doing. So yeah, I was quite impressed with Morris.
We kind of touched on Cameron Jerome a little bit earlier, but like we said, he's still going to be knocking on that door to start an 11, isn't he?
Yep. Like I said earlier, he wants to play. He definitely wants to be out as much as he can. And if he really wanted game time, he'd have dropped a couple of divisions. So he hasn't done that. He is confident of his ability. He's an ex-Premier League player. He knows what he's doing. And when he does it well. The question is, can he do it for 90 minutes? Probably not.
And then we've got Woodrow, Cornick and Musgrave as well. Look, Woodrow's obviously not had much of an opportunity to show us what he's about this season, but we do know there's a player there. Cornick's had a bit of a problem with injury. Musgrave did well at the weekend. So I guess out of everyone right now, if you had to pick a two to move us forward and you could see starting every week, which two would it be? Because it's a tough one, isn't it?
Well, it's so tough because based on last season, you'd think Adebayo every week. Based on this season, you think maybe not Adebayo every week. So I think the boss is going to go. I think Adebayo and Morris really is his front two. I think Cornick comes in there somewhere, and Woodrow comes on when he needs to. At the moment, but it's a long season.
Well, we asked you what you think our two current strongest forwards are, and what have you made of our attackers start to the season so far? Sol says Musgrave and Morris have got to be the two strongest too. However, you can't ignore Jerome's experience and quality. He's a leader, makes other players around him better. Musgrave just gives us something different, which again is something I mentioned earlier. Musgrave does offer that difference in, you look at Adebayo and Morris being the type of players that are good at holding up the ball, and you look at Musgrave, he gets the ball to his feet, he can dribble with it, he can cause problems for defenders.
Yeah, and why not? Yeah, Musgrave does give us something different. I don't disagree.
Mark says, I'd say Cornick and Jerome.
Okay.
Jerome is a quality, intelligent pro. If we get a 60-minute performance from the start or a savvy 15 from the bench, his link-up and availability to receive is second to none in the squad. All our central strikers look better playing off him.
Oh, my God. I think we just touched on that. When he came on, he did his job so well. So I agree.
He's just so good in the air as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
Jerome?
It's very strong, very strong. Sponsored by DLA Driving School, just to let you know. And he is. He does. I agree with this. All our central strikers look better playing off of him. He wins the ball. He puts it in the right places.
Connor says, by the looks of things, Jerome and Morris could be our strongest. However, Woodrow and Morris would be good.
Yeah. Well, again, look, if Woodrow and Morris start on Friday, we'll see.
Crisps and Kits says, I'm interested to see how Woodrow fits in. Not sure where he plays in our system. Adebayo and Morris need more time to form a partnership. Jerome and Morris look good together when Jerome came on against Swansea.
But can't you see that as one of those input parts, that there'll be bit part pairing, but Morris and Adebayo, or Morris and Adebayo and someone else, or Morris and someone else could be a permanent thing?
I think once maybe one partnership starts to click, that we could maybe see more of it.
Yeah.
Jason says, as in what have you made of our attack at start of the season? He says it's been slow, but it's going to be hard as even Adebayo isn't getting 90 minutes lately. Now we have more options. There's more pressure on each one. It's all about confidence and form will follow. Morris has to start on Friday to build on yesterday's goal, which is true. I guess now Morris is going to be so high on confidence that do you just then put him straight back into the bench on Friday night?
No, I think he starts. I think he starts Friday. I think he starts alongside Adebayo. I think he'll be very, very keen to show what he can do again. And, in front of everybody at home, it'd be even better.
Matt says Jerome and Morris seem to work well together and complement each other. Morris and Adebayo doesn't work for me. Adebayo with Cornick or Musgrave maybe. Lee says, agree with some of the comments on here. Morris and Jerome to start. Harfer needs to grab Adebayo by the scruff of his neck and shake the negativity out of him.
Yeah, we did say that on the weekend, really. When you think about Adebayo, he was so good last season. It's been a little bit disappointing. And sometimes you just want him to be a bit quicker and run a bit faster and be at those places a bit earlier.
Because all you ever want is someone to run quick, isn't it?
Well, no, but when we was at the games at Swansea, I think you said to me, watch how Adebayo's running. And it was like he was jogging places all of the time. But you don't become a bad player overnight. There's no reason why he can't start scoring again. And it was a bit of an unknown last season, so maybe now the defences have got more on him. And so, he's finding it more difficult. Who knows?
Cam says current strongest is Jerome and Morris. We have to go off form and effort. They're the only two who've really had an effect so far this season.
But Jerome and Morris can't do 90 minutes. Jerome won't be able to do 90 minutes just because he's his age. He just won't.
I just think we can't knock what Elijah's done since he's been at this club. And I feel like even if you took Elijah out to start 11, that can't do confidence any good. So for me, I'm going to have to say Elijah and Morris to start Friday night would be a good one.
Well, I said that earlier, so I'll stay with that.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to get back on Friday.
It's going to be good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which means we're going to do a preview podcast again before Friday. So make sure you're joining us then. Go subscribe on YouTube, Owen the Town, so you don't miss it.
I'm doing that, no?
Yeah,
I'm talking to you.
Chatting to the Sheffield United fans.
Yeah,
so
can't wait.
Thanks for that. Before leaving today, we wanted to talk about this, which I heard on the radio the other day, and I thought with producer Jacob, it would make a really nice little talking point for the podcast. Players you felt were really underappreciated at your club. So at Luton, who was the one player that you thought just didn't quite get the love he deserved?
Well, here's the thing, right? Because I started thinking further back, and I started thinking when I was sort of a teenager and going to games, late teens, early 20s, who was the one player that I really liked, but when you refer back to them, they never mentioned. And then Phil Hull on Twitter came up with an answer, and I thought, Phil, you're totally right. So I'm going to go with what he said. And he said Lil Facillo. Now, Lil Facillo played 180 games for Luton Town. He broke his leg twice. He broke his leg in a game, and I can't remember which game that was. And then I can remember him standing in the tunnel on his crutches at a game, and everybody shouting out his name. He then, on his comeback, broke a leg again.
Yeah.
And so he broke his leg twice. And he was with us for, like I say, 180 games. But you think back to that team, and the first player that comes to your mind is Ricky Hill, Brian Steen, those sort of people. So for me, Facillo was a decent player, and a really good shout by Phil, by the way. So that's why I'm not taking the credit for this. Phil gave it to me. But brilliant shout. So for me, Lil Facillo.
For us youngsters who maybe are not quite sure who you're referring to.
Firstly, I'd say look him up on Hatters Heritage, then look him up on YouTube. He was a midfielder, very strong. He played alongside Ricky. He was a really talented player. I think how many goals did he score? Let me see, 27 goals. But he was just a really integral part of the team, and he helped us to promotion 82. But when you look at that, when you look at the 82 team, he's not the first player that comes to your mind. You think of David Moss, you think of Ricky Hill, you think of Brian Steen, So, Facillo.
See, that's interesting you say that, because I'm sure we could look back at even recent years and go, actually, in our title-winning teams, there's a few players that you kind of forget about and don't really spring to mind.
What makes you remember a player? That's, anybody of my era, you say Luton Town, they go Ricky Hill. Ricky Hill was sublime, absolutely sublime. And there's no getting over the fact if he'd have been transferred to Man United or Liverpool, you've gone, well done, Ricky Hill, because he deserves that. But they don't say Lil Facillo.
I think I look back at the era when I was growing up watching Luton, and it was Kevin Nichols, Steve Howard. You know, I think they're the two like main standout ones, like Marlon Beresford and Chris Coyne and players like that. That I look back on and go, yeah, they were the ones you really remember. But I'm sure there's
But if you looked at the same squad, if you looked at the squad they were playing in, you'd be picking out, oh my God, yeah, I've forgotten about him.
Yeah, and how well they did. But for me, I think one player, and I've got a reason for this, I feel like James Collins was underappreciated in the sense of, I think scoring that winner against Watford deserves him proper legend status, because people always talk about previous Watford games. They always talk about what Matty Springs won the goal at Vicarage Road.
Yeah.
And I just feel like,
Kirk Stevens.
will we mention James Collins forever for his goal against Watford or not?
Well, if we got half a brain, we will, and especially when we did the Watford preview. I think James Collins was a great player, and I think I was sad to see him go, and I think if he'd stayed, he'd still be part of the team right now. That's how I felt about it. Does he get legend status? Anyone who scores against Watford can officially have legend status. As long as they get a hat-trick this season, they'll be fine. So I get what you're saying. He was a good player. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we asked you who is the one player you felt was really underappreciated at Luton. Andy says Rowan Vine. He was tireless in support of Steve Howard.
Yeah, Rowan Vine was a great player, and he was
a brilliant player, wasn't he?
But he was. Howard scored more than Vine, right? And you think back to that team, and you think of how well I can remember. He was just a tenacious player. I liked him. I wouldn't say he was underappreciated. I think, well, maybe I know I'm going to say he was. No, I'm just thinking now. I'm just trying to think on the spot here. If I think back to the team, I know Rowan Vine, Steve Howard. Who played with him, and then, who else in the team?
Well, it was
that stood out.
The year of
Go on,
Nichols, wasn't it?
Nichols
And Lewis Emmanuel, baller.
There you go.
I don't know. It's just And an interesting fact about Rowan Vine. His son has just signed for Brentford B.
Oh, really nice.
Which makes me feel a little bit old. His 16-year-old son, yeah. So
well, you are old.
Maybe grow up to be like his dad and never know. See him in a Luton shirt one day. Here you go. This one's for you then, Dave. Grant says, Gary Parker, Mick Kennedy, Darren McDonough. Said that right?
Yeah.
Ian Dowie, Craig McHale-Smith, Paddy McCourt. I could go on.
Well, you only asked for one, and he's given you loads. Madonna was a good player. Dowie, Dowie was a strong centre forward, wasn't he?
I don't know. I wasn't old enough to see Dowie play.
I'll get some videos up and I'll show you them.
Underappreciated though?
I think if you're looking back, yeah, probably. When he was playing, when he was scoring, no.
Tim says Kevin Foley, bloke was arguably our best player for 3 years. So consistent and reliable, only picked up a handful of yellows and 0 reds despite being a defender. Perfect time to plug our Kevin Foley podcast.
Well, I was going to say,
go watch that because he's a top
his
guy.
podcast was amazing. The way that he spoke about the club and Luton in particular was brilliant. And yeah, he deserves a bit more recognition. But we use the word legend, like we said before. We use it and too blatantly sometimes to people that aren't.
Leo says, I think James Collins is definitely one of them. He was a good player for Luton Town, especially in that 2019-20 season. He was clinical under Nathan Jones during lockdown in 2020. And it's true, he did score some big goals in lockdown. The one away at Swansea springs to mind straight away, the header. He did score some big goals for us, and especially, like I said, the Watford one.
Yeah.
I just feel like, do we love him enough, Luton fans? Do we all love James Collins enough for scoring that winner against Watford?
Well, I do.
I think now when I think about it, I do.
I do.
Because that was a brilliant moment and you just wish we were in the stadium that day.
Imagine that. Imagine being in the stadium with him, and that would have made it even better, wouldn't it? But I agree with Leo there that he was definitely clinical during the lockdown period under Nathan.
Trondheim Hat says, hard to say, but Alex Lacey, I feel, never got a real chance to grow as a player for us. He was one of them youngsters that come through the youth team, and I think everyone was thinking, all right, is this guy going to be the next best thing kind of thing, but it didn't really work out for him. And I can't quite remember where he's playing now. I can't remember if it's Notts County in the National League, but he's gone on to have a career in professional football at least, but it didn't quite hit the heights maybe we thought he was going to get to when he was a youngster.
Yeah, and that happens to a lot of players, doesn't it?
And Dave says Marcus Heikkinen, one of the best players I've seen play for us and barely ever gets mentioned by fans.
Do you know,
nowadays.
that's such a good call, Dave, because he was a brilliant player. Really strong, really playing.
What I find about that era of football is I don't quite remember how each player played. All I remember was like Kevin Nichols being that centre mid that got stuck in and would love a tackle. And
he was a good for me, Nichols was a good, proper, old-fashioned midfielder that would really crunch a player. You know, none of this nandy-pandy stuff where they just sort of fall over a touch. You'd know if you'd get done by him. Absolutely no. So, some good calls there.
Some brilliant suggestions here. Let us know what you think. If you're listening now or watching now and you want to have your say on this, let us know. Owen the Town on Twitter, or leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. Who do you think is one player that was really underappreciated at Luton? Before we go, a little bit of club news. Mendes Gomez joined Fleetwood on loan for the season.
Well,
not surprised at that?
No, not a surprise at all. He needs that. And the question is, will he come back?
It's one of them ones where if he goes and has a brilliant season, he could come back and slot in. If it doesn't go to plan, maybe we just sell him and just go, look, maybe that's just one that got away.
Yeah.
Because there was so much hype when we signed him. So much hype. And I love this. Luton ladies winning their first game 5-2 against Kingsling at Kenilworth Road in front of over 500 fans, which is just brilliant to see.
Fantastic. And just a little DLA plug again, if I may. The DLA are now sponsoring one of the lady strikers, which we'll announce officially next week.
Very exciting. And that's pretty much it then for today. Shane Batoro wasn't here to talk about our first win of the season, but hopefully he can be here next week to talk about our second win of the season.
Hope he's right.
Although I might be away next week, but we'll discuss this off air. Anyway, that's all we've got time for today.
What?
Join us on...
What do you mean you'll be away?
Wednesday night, Thursday morning for the Sheffield United preview podcast, where we'll be discussing everything about Luton and Sheffield United. So yeah, thanks so much for listening today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you Thursday.